Welcome to this session. Today we are discussing a very important topic, library and information networks. This topic is equally useful for both our BLIS and MLIS students. For BLIS course number BLI 221 and for MLIS course MLII 103, MLII 104 and MLIE 103. In this topic, we are discussing about library networks, their need, their types and their examples. For this discussion, we are having Professor Jadeep Sharma with us. Sir, let us start the discussion.
Yes, please.
With what do we mean by library networks and what is the need of these library networks?
Okay, fine. So, library and information networks, as Dr. Archana said, it's a very important topic, and as she mentioned, that it is important not only for our bachelor's degree students, for master's degree students also. And also she mentioned that not one course, it is there in more than one course. And why is it so important that we have included it in so many courses? Because today libraries cannot survive in isolation. Libraries have to depend on other libraries. Therefore, they join together, they come together and they form networks. So the first question that comes to our mind is that what is a library and information network? Why do we need a library and information network? So we basically need library and information networks to connect libraries. As we just now said, that libraries cannot exist in isolation. They need to be connected with each other. So to connect libraries, we need to have networks. Now, how do we connect them? Are they physically connected or they are connected by other means? So it is here that we talk of telecommunication technology that connects libraries. Within these could be local area networks, these could be metropolitan area networks or even wide area networks. So this is how libraries are connected. But then the immediate question that comes to our mind is, can we do without networking libraries? So we just now said, no, libraries cannot think of being in isolation. They need to be connected to each other. And why do the libraries need to be connected? They need to be connected because they would like to share their resources. They cannot serve their users with their own resources. They cannot serve the users with the resources that they have with them individually. They would like to have resources that are available with other libraries also. But then immediately that comes to our mind is that, is it something new? Were the libraries not connected earlier? Were they be able to serve their users with their own resources only? Then the question is yes as well as no. It is yes because no, they were sharing their resources with each other, but then that sharing was limited. They were sharing print collection, and it is difficult to share the print collection. If you want to share the resources with other libraries, you can just think of that a library gives a resource to its user, and if they give it to the other library, it is not that safe because the other library doesn't take that resource for its own use. That library also gives that resource to some other user. So that safety aspect really matters to libraries. Not only that, if they give their resource for the user of some other library and the user of this particular library needs that resource, that book, that journal, then they will not be able to serve their own users. Therefore, it was not a very open practice to ask the users that you may have resources of other libraries also. It was only for some restricted, for some very specialized, for some very those users who really mattered, and particularly for those whose needs were that important that libraries would request other libraries to share their resources with these libraries. And that service used to be called interlibrary loan. So a library loaning its resources to some other library. So that used to happen earlier. But then if we see these things happening through slides, we would like to show you these slides, and you would see how things have changed. So it is not only print resources today. The change is that resources are moving from print to digital. We are having more of information today in the digital form. You are all aware that whenever we talk of information, what comes to our mind is electronic information. The source of that information that comes to our mind is the internet, the web. Generally, these days, we are thinking less of resources limited to a particular organization like a library, but we are talking of resources across the globe. We are talking of resources that are not limited to a particular organization. So it is here that we basically, when we talk of information, we talk of information that is not limited to a particular organization. We are talking of digitized information. So it is in this digitized information that this concept of sharing this information has come up more into practice. But then there are problems with this.
Yes. So as you told, we have started with interlibrary loan, then came to resource sharing. Now we are using consortia also. In this environment, we are also using ICT for providing these services to the users. So how these things are helping in library and information networks?
Yes. You see that as we were discussing that libraries used to share, they used to share individually, or at times they used to share with libraries that were in close vicinity, those which were in geographically close to each other, and that too at times that when there were understanding between those libraries. But then the moment information came into the digital form, and also there were developments in the information communication technology for storage and exchange, and also when there were more players than libraries alone, there were other information agencies that were there. So it was here that this gave an encouragement to libraries that yes, you can have resources across libraries also. And in fact, as I said, that it was not alone libraries, some other players also came into the information field, and we had a very advanced concept of sharing resources across libraries and institutions. And it is here that you said, as you rightly mentioned, that we have a concept called consortia also. So it is a large group of libraries coming together and sharing information, and that information may not even belong to these libraries. So it is a very different concept. As we had started from interlibrary loan, doesn't mean that interlibrary loan was something less. It was during those days whatever was possible libraries were doing. And while they were sharing their resources with each other, they had also come up with an idea of union catalog. Because if you want to share across libraries, the libraries which are sharing, they should know the resources that are available to each other. So it is this concept of union catalog that was there, again was a difficult concept to really put into practice because it was not in digitized form, and moreover there were the other things were also not developed like we have these days, that when you want to share compatibility and all those issues were also not there. So but still they had thought of ways and means, and they were trying to share. But now it has become difficult and easy, but then there are some difficulties also. Now if we really now we have really talked of sharing, and we see that when these libraries share, when these networks share, when these consortia share, it is not merely books.
Yes.
More important is sharing of journals, sharing of journal articles. And why journal articles and why less of books? Because when we want to share, doesn't mean that everything will be shared only. We need to have a core collection. Every institution, every library would like to have a core collection. That may be in print, that may be in e-form, or maybe in digital form. But then they would like to have a core collection. And how do you decide about the core collection? Means that it is something without which you cannot survive. It is a area of specialization of your organization. It is a discipline in which you pursue research in the institution. It is in these areas, and that too which is really relevant to the institution. But then that also is debatable, that really relevant. So there are certain measures by which you decide, yes, this has to be with us, we would not like to share it with others. And in that it is like there are some cost is one factor.
Yes, sir.
Those resources which are very costly.
Very costly. So here, sir, one question comes to our mind, whether we are just sharing our resources only or other things are also shared with these networks.
See, when you talk of resources means basically it started with books and journals, but then even services are shared, expertise is shared, because with the changes in the scholarly world, changes in the demands, changes in the way we study and learn. Similarly, libraries have also been changing, and so initially we started with books. We are talking of particular piece of information. We are talking of sharing expertise, and it is in this context that a new concept also came into being. We called it bibliographic information networks. So these networks really are those in which we are sharing our expertise. In fact, if you talk of library and information networks also, they have also been classified in different ways. Like as we have mentioned some time back, that these are local area networks, metropolitan area networks, wide area networks. This is a very easily understood classification of networks, that this matters as far as the distance between the institutions is concerned. Similarly, we have networks of other types also, and that depends on the area of interest of the participating institutions. Like academic and research libraries, they share the resources, and one such example in India is the Information and Library Network, and they have formed a consortia also that was called UGC Infonet, and it has been renamed, and now it is called eShodh Sindhu. So the moment you talk of eShodh Sindhu, immediately what comes to your mind is a number of things. This is done by University Grants Commission, and the specialized body doing it is Information Library Network, InfLibNet. And what do? They provide access to specialized journal articles. This is one activity that they are doing. So why journal articles? Because journals are really their cost price is really increasing, and at the same time they are increasing in numbers also. And a user cannot just think of doing away with one or the other. They would like to have one and all. Whatever new comes in their area, they would request the libraries to provide access to them. And on the other hand, libraries find it very difficult to have access to them. So one way is directly approaching the publishers. The other is you get it through aggregators, through vendors. And the cost that is associated with these is beyond the reach of individual libraries. So what this InfLibNet has done for us libraries is that they have formed a consortia. And it is in this consortia, which goes by the name eShodh Sindhu, in which not only UGC Infonet, there was another consortia of engineering, science and technology libraries, which was called INDEST, Indian National Digital Engineering and Science and Technology Libraries. So that also merged into this consortia, and what they are doing, they are serving college libraries, university libraries, research libraries, and all these educational institutions of higher education. They are all part of this consortia. So when so many institutions and libraries are concerned, they bargain with the vendors and aggregators and publishers, and they provide these e-resources at a very concessional rate. There are three ways. One is that as we mentioned, through the consortia, and eShodh Sindhu is one example. Similarly, you can also do it at the level of your institution, and that too also has to be done, because eShodh Sindhu cannot do for all your resources that you want. It is for the majority of resources, the resources that are required by majority of the institutions, they would do it for them. But those which are required by less number of institutions, by some institutions, they have to do it at their own. But then the costing of such resources is a little higher. So this is another way.
So
third, yes, please.
Yes. So you talked about bibliographic networks or bibliographic database. Can you elaborate on this thing? What are bibliographic databases and what are the examples of these type of databases?
I'll come to that. I'll just take up this third method of accessing, that is at the level of individual. We individuals can also access these databases, and this is another option, but then that is a little more costlier, and that generally is pay per view method. You do it and you pay for it, and that is also a method. So there are three methods. Now I come to your question when you say bibliographic information networks. Basically, these provide you bibliographical details of resources at one place, and you can make use of these resources. Like, OCLC is one very good example of such a network, and this, what does it do? It provides you centralized services of processed records that you can access through them, and it basically started with Library of Congress providing you catalog card service. Yes. And why this service was introduced? Because if you do it at one place, you do it in one way. So it results into standardization. It is not that one library doing in one way, the other one doing in different way. So that helps you in standardizing your bibliographical details in whatever way you are doing, and also it saves on your resources. You don't have to do it at the individual libraries. Similarly, there are other bibliographic networks also across the globe, but OCLC is one such example. If you talk of such networks in India, basically our library and information networks partly do bibliographic information service, not in a very clear way of providing such services, because if you access their union catalogs, then only it helps that way. Otherwise, they don't fall into this category of bibliographic information networks. But then there are efforts at national level in our country also that provide you such services, and these are happening at the level of projects, at different levels, at the level of the government also. So these are happening, and these are helping the libraries to standardize their records. Now, we were talking of different types of networks and consortia, and we said eShod Sindhu is one, and this is the effort of InflibNet. There are other services also that these consortia and networks provide, and one such example with which I think our users would also be very familiar is Delnet. Now, Delnet started with providing services only to Delhi libraries, and that is why it was named as Delnet, Delhi Libraries Network. And starting with Delhi, they have increased their domain and scope to now developing libraries, and the name remains the same, Delnet, but now the scope is Developing Libraries Network. So within their ambit, they have libraries of the developing world, and the type of service for which they are most popular is that they provide you services, they provide you for any library documents, books, periodical articles available across the developing world, and they do it in very limited time. If it is in the city, they provide you in hours, in maximum in a day, and across cities also they have arrangement, and for that they have their own union catalog. When you want to have, it's not available in your library, you just search the union catalog, you get to know which libraries are having it. Delnet arranges these to you. So what a change in services. But then these are not done by libraries themselves, it is the networks that have done. They have the arrangement, they have the undertaking with other libraries, and this help the libraries via this network. Now, the another benefit that these consortia and networks provide to users and libraries is that they provide you expert advice. They provide you resources in open access domain. They have created portals. They have created open access repositories sort of things. Like one such example which is very important for the academic world is, particularly the researchers, is the research thesis that are available through their portal that is called Shodh Ganga. Yes. So anyone who has done a research, his or her research is available full text in Shodh Ganga. So this is a very big advantage for all researchers to avoid duplication in research, also to see what sort of research has been done so as to maintain continuity in further research. So this is one very big step that has been taken up by InflibNet. And another, side by side, what they do is research in progress. That also you come to know, and that is available in Shodh Gangotri. So any research that is being pursued at different universities and research institutions, that too is available full text on Shodh Gangotri. So these are two very important services of InflibNet that have been provided to us. So these are full text databases. Similarly, they have the bibliographic databases also, and one such example is IndCat, in which you come to know of the bibliographical details of this research that is done, undertaken. Similarly, in the area of non-bibliographic databases also, they have created databases, and one such example is Vidwan. It's a database of experts that are available. So you come to know which expert, which institution, his details are also there, specialization is there. So if you want to consult these people, if you want to have access to non-documentary resources, if you want to have human resources, interaction with them, you can search this database which is called Vidwan. Similarly, if you come back to Delnet, they also provide you access to different union catalogs that are there, and not only in this is limited to books and all, it is also limited to journals. And the benefit of all these services that are available through these networks is that it avoids duplication. You are able to avoid duplication in your on spending on resources, and similarly you also save on duplication of research. So if we try to conclude what we have discussed today is that we started with why should libraries share and how they used to share earlier, and what is the sharing scenario today, and how is this scenario changing, how information communication technology has helped to change this scenario, how is it evolving due to information communication technology, how it has really led to an advantage to libraries as well as users. We have also discussed how these networks have evolved themselves. They basically started with very small domain at the level of metropolitan cities. Almost all cities used to have, not only Delhi, we used to have it for Madras, Bangalore, Bombay, Pune, all these were there, but now they are there at the level of the country, they are there at the level beyond the country also. And side by side, many more concepts are also coming up, like National Digital Library. So digital libraries are also coming up. So that is another evolution that is taking place. So things are moving. The only thing is that there has to be a will and wish on the part of libraries. They have to standardize, they have to learn new things that are coming up and put their resources in a compatible mode so that they are able to be pooled together, they are put together in one, and the people are able to really use them. These consortia and networks are also helping the LIS professionals, the information professionals, to learn new things. They are also designing new software. They are helping the libraries to digitize. They are helping the libraries to automate. They are also helping their users at times, organizing training sessions for their users. They are also organizing conferences, seminars, annual conferences, seminars, but in very focused areas, like in the area of automation, in the area of digitization. They are also holding new seminars, conferences in the new developments like open access. So this is how this has really changed the scenario of library and information across the country, and let us hope that things will keep moving further and we'll have a big paradigmatic change in the information scenario of the country for the better of the users. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the discussion.